The choice of who to hang with. I just posted this picture in another thread and it got me thinking. So many people feel that you need to hang out with people that support your business or entrepreneurship direction. I have disagreed with the statement that you are the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most. In this picture is a police officer, massage therapist, doctor, mid-level sales manager, real estate investor, and professional sports team owner. The other half of the team that is not pictured consisted of a librarian, long-term Honeywell employee, real estate agent, teacher, housewife, and engineer. It is obvious what united us as friends and acquaintances. We hung out on a regular basis as part of a running club. We would meet up 3 to 5 times a week and train together. Why would I ever consider dumping them as friends? We have something in common that we enjoy. I currently run 3 times a week with a guy that has spent 3 stints in jail for theft. He drinks a bit, smokes pot, and probably does other things that society may not approve of. But he runs my speed and is pleasant to talk to. Who am I to judge? He paid his price. There is no negative effect on my business. This picture is mostly our softball team. Slow lane folks all the way by definition. But they are fun to hang around with. We did this bike ride event in support of our teammate with diabetes. It was fun. This photo is filled with doers. You can tell the difference, right? Almost all successful business owners. This one also. This is the trip to Africa that organized. Almost all entrepreneurs and most are on this forum. It was a blast. But I cannot distinguish the fun with each individual from any of the events based on what they do. It was fun for what we had in common at the time. And I spend the most time with these losers. They contribute very little to our relationship and always want things. At least they tell people to stay away by constantly yelling at them. Now this is awesome. My opinion is, it depends where you are in life, and the kind of person you are. The more established you are as a person, the less external influences will alter your trajectory. If you're 25 and been flipping burgers with 4 of your closest buddies since you were 16, chances are you'll be stuck doing that for a while. Most might not realize they're stuck as a group, because it's just what everyone does anyway. By everyone, they consider their group of friends a microcosm of society, and rationalize it all away. Classic cognitive dissonance. You on the other hand are much less likely to leave your golf course to flip burgers at BK, because you've recently acquainted with someone who does. Personally, I don't believe people should become assholes and snobs, because they're chasing or attain some entrepreneurial goals. However, I do believe in consistent reassessment of how every ongoing long-term relationship affects your life. I'd say, that's a good average for the op. Keep in mind, that adage about being the average of our 5 closest friends is a tongue-in-cheek comment, I believe, about values, but we often confuse it to be a comment about income or education. I think it is easier when you spend your time with people who have the same goals than you, because no one will question your motivation or your actions. But thanks God we are not bound to one goal as long as your self-confidence is strong enough so you can stick to your decisions. I see no problem in hanging out with other-minded people as well. It might even give you new impulses. I don't disagree with what you are saying here. I worked some shit jobs when younger. It was difficult to have the confidence to hang with people that seemed superior. There was a party once to show off a remodel at a beach house. They invited all the workers also. I was part of the landscape crew. The owners were very nice, but I felt so out of place and uncomfortable. It would support your premise to state that I actually moved 30 miles away to get away from bad influences. But I feel that you should keep all that separate and can do so by choice. Hang out with who you want. Make your decisions by what you want. Agreed. Your issue is that you care about how others see your choices. That is what most people need to work on. I'm pretty split personality on this. I think the average of the 5 people you hang with can make a huge difference. But I also think the reason why is often quite selfish. For me, the times I love this are the times when it's not such a smooth road. Having people around me following the same journey or taken it already who can relate and offer me advice or condolences is when I cherish them the most. Can I say when it's all running smoothly that I really cared whether or not the people around me are anything like me? Not one darn bit. I just want to enjoy them and the moment. I believe that it is less about values and more about fear of what other people think, which would support your feelings on values. Will you really take someone's advice? Seems like most people do want some sort of commiseration but really just want advice if it matches what they are thinking. We will tend to go toward what makes sense for us. Lots of people ask me for advice but very few listen. Bingo. In all honesty, for a long time, hell, no. And if they didn't give the right kind of commiseration I'd ignore them totally and be a little miffed. It was the point when I kept repeating the same mistake and they refused to advise me anymore. My ears started turning on. Well, it was either that or I've just got so old that the wisdom switch finally turned on. Ha ha. It is pretty clear that this topic is controversial. At least I don't agree with most everyone else. In that case it is not really controversial, is it? Fairly weighted the other way. Good thing that I don't care much. I like to beat this dead horse though. Must resist, must not comment on mentoring. You don't need support. You have you. I love your avatar BTW. Some of us don't seem to recognize how creative we are. All we need to do is look at our lives without judgment to see what we have created. You may think others have co-created with you or helped to color the world. It is just one giant work of art that you have created. I love that way of looking at it. Stealing and adopting to reprogram my mind with. Some of my most favorite people friends are rascals and scoundrels, but when we're together we laugh and laugh. Oh, how we laugh. I just love their company. The conversations are endless and fascinating, but they're not business people and some don't believe they'll have enough money. I chose not to lecture them about this. If they're happy or even happy to complain, I'm happy to accept that they accept me. Some have skills and virtues I envy, others are just great blokes who will drop what they're doing to come and help when needed. They have nothing to do with my business or financial goals and they'll throw beer cans at me if I start up about it, but that's not why I love their mostly bald little heads. When I want to be influenced in business I seek out those types and spend an appropriate amount of time, but I never befriend people based on their incomes or worse my desire to elevate my own income by adopting them into my personal circle. Great thread, Steve. To be fair, is a rascal and a scoundrel sent from my VTRL 29 using Taper Talk. My view on the 5 average is that it extends beyond just the economic considerations. I'd say it includes your hobbies, and it seems you do adhere to this, your political views, your religious views, your philosophical views, as well as your income and net worth. In many cases we can blend into the average with our closest associates, and in some cases we can actively seek out other like-minded individuals. Or a bit of both. Sent from my VTRL 29 using Taper Talk. I agree with this. The average will get very muddied with all the variables though. It will get to the point that there is no longer a value in the calculation. When we all get together, there is enough debauchery to go around for all of us. Rascals and scoundrels abound. We wouldn't have it any other way. I've actually been cutting people out of my life as my business has grown in these past few months. I had a friend of over 6 years who I have stopped hanging out with because he's a drag. Every time I hung out with him I would spend money that I didn't want to spend, and he'd end up doing something that annoyed me. The last straw was about a month ago when his car broke down while we were on the bad part of town, went to get something to eat. I had been telling him for months to get it checked out, but he would always respond in Malaysia. His car broke down in a bad side of town, and we were exposed for about an hour. All eyes were on us. People were looking at us like we were prey. I'm surprised nothing happened, but as we were on the way home he acted like it was no big deal. That's when I knew that he didn't give a FCK about life and only saw me as someone to waste time with. He actually confronted me last week at a gas station and I hung out with him for a little bit because I felt bad. I won't go into details, but he once again said he was lazy and didn't care about certain things in life. On my way home I blocked his number from my phone. As my business grows, I have come to learn the importance of having reliable, goal-orientated friends. I'm making too much money to be hanging out with time wasters. What better reason is there than this? My opinion is that this kind of shit is fun. I can recount many stories now that may not have been pleasant at the time. I love to tell them and give the people shit for their role. And I hate to say this, but perhaps you were giving out vibes that you were prey. Toughen up. This has been holding true for many years at the dirt tracks across the country. Last night I hung out with a very rich gentleman on my right and a very poor couple on my left. We all hang out together at least once a week, sometimes twice. There are many more of us. One guy has worked in his family business for 42 years and they only pay him $12 an hour, but he is not very educated yet, a pro at his trade, cutting tile and marble. Another guy is retired from the newspaper and he has also bought and sold many classic cars and we think he is loaded as well, but he never says. Another guy owns a very large printing company. He is worth over $100 million. Another guy that owns a vending company worth over $7 million. A lady and her small daughter that are on welfare. Another couple that work regular jobs, probably not making over $12, $15 an hour. And there are more of us, but you get the idea. There is one guy who is in his 70s that has owned 5 trash trucks for 40 plus years and loves every minute of his work. He drives one of those trucks every day because that's what he loves to do. He is also loaded, but you would never know. In Nebraska when I lived there the same was true. I hung out with the original founders of Cabler's, a trial attorney, the owner of the largest dry cleaners in the state, a couple that owns 36 Burger Kings, a lady that made $8 an hour answering phones, a lady that was always trying to kick a drug habit but never did any drug around us. A girl that had a goal of getting up in the morning and finding money to smoke cigarettes and drink Mount Dew all day, and a guy that sells brake shoes and makes $2 for every pair he sells. All walks of life hang out all the time, and more often than not, the folks that make more money have family that does not and they hang out with them. I've always did my own thing. If people agreed with it, fine, and if they didn't, fine. Even my rich friends have been amazed at what I made in the cleaning business and how far I've come. I think it is good to hang out with people that are different from you. The key is to hang out with people that are positive and uplifting. My biggest supporters are a graphic design artist and a chef. So happy that you have found your tribe. I am still looking for mine. Mg. I just don't hang out with losers. You know, negative people with victim mentalities. Other than that, I don't care what they do or anything else. Do we get along? Enjoy each other's company? Yes? Then why not? One of running buddies is a school teacher, another is in sales. One of my friends is a paralegal. One's a shrink. All cool people that I enjoy hanging with. I don't care what they do for a living. I even have close friends that are liberals. I have personally found that I gravitate toward those that are more like-minded philosophically. I am also very success-minded. This tend to spend time with other successful people. However, my definition of success is not necessarily economic. It is more the mentality of the person who want to improve themselves and achieve more in life. that affects all aspects of one's life. Sent from my VTRL 29 using TaperTalk. We all have special behavior we prefer on people, and that might change over time when we make new experiences. I understand that you don't want to hang out with him anymore because you don't see any sense in his behavior of being lazy, or let's say not being able to get important things done because you are in busyness, which implies that you are responsible. Otherwise you wouldn't be in busyness for too long. Not necessarily this, but rather spending time with people who are opposed to your entrepreneurial direction, willingly shoot down your ideas just for the sake of controversy and are stuck in their ways, is very draining. When you have not already made it, the peanut gallery is louder. Those who have only had a taste of fast lane or are tirelessly working on their business after their 9-to-5 should be careful who they associate with and who they openly talk about their ideas with. When you have already made it, people just see you as the successful business guy and are more likely to support you and whatever your next idea may be, rather than go out of their way to exert negative energy. I grew up with a book-smart friends circle who studied hard and went to good schools. They are now actuaries, managers, engineers, and accountants. They have some of the safest job security possible. I haven't talked to them in over a year because our interests simply diverged, and after one too many negative conversations I had to call it quits. I now have much smaller circle of 4 to 5 people who know of my aspirations, are willing to call out a bad idea if they hear one, but don't go out of their way to shoot down the idea of entrepreneurship. Open-mindedness is a value that is important to me if one is going to be a close friend. Quite honestly, another group of my biggest supporters are people that have made it already. Anytime you want to climb in any sense, you will get some haters. I will only support and root for you until you are doing better than me. I have found very few people in my same realm that support my ambitions because they are afraid I will grow out of the box they put me in. Admittedly, I used to be that guy years ago, but as I climb and got stuck in my journey I realized how stupid it is. There is no single piece of the pie. As others have said, it definitely depends on who you are as an individual. By the way, I don't think that it is necessarily the jobs and ideologies of the people that you hang out with that matters. I differ with all of my friends on this front. What matters is whether or not you are surrounded by people who are narcissistic, apathetic, and negative. These are the general things that I avoid in people. If you surround yourself with people who are giving, driven, and positive, as I have done, you will see that your relationships can elevate and sustain you through your journey. As someone with a family that has fit the former category and is thankfully coming out of it, I can tell you that those mindsets and emotions can wear at you and act as a black hole. I agree with this. And your age. When you're younger, you're more easily influenced by peers. When you're my age, or even older, such as what other people do, or how they live their lives, is less important as you learn to find the common ground. However, the common ground has limits. I'm not going to hang out with victims, whiners, and the pay your fair share types. If I want to hear about manufactured injustices, all you need to do is turn on the TV. There's a reason I watch very little TV, and if hanging out with someone is like watching an hour of CNN, see you later. The bottom line is this person fun, trustworthy? And are they generally supportive of you? If so, their career or net worth is irrelevant. I guess I should have been armed like the Terminator just in case his car broke down at night in an area of town where crime is common. It's not even the laziness because I rarely rely on him for things, it's just that now that I'm making real progress, I'm realizing that being around him is just a waste of time with some friends. I gain knowledge and fresh perspectives with this guy, I just lose time, money, patience, etc. It's just better not to have those type of people around. Yep. But, the youngsters that have the gumption to move or see past this will have an easier path. If you are hanging with people that are just getting loaded and playing video games and you don't want to do that, then it is time to move on to something different. So, you hang out with people that like to stir the pot, raise a ruckus, and then laugh at everyone making fools of themselves? To be accurate, I think it means, you become the average of the 5 people you hang out the most with. It was classic self-help wisdom that was intended to make people search for better associations if the ones they currently have are limiting them. Exactly. Why would you? They have a positive impact on you and they look like excellent people to be with. You all have the same vibe. And the concept still stands. Personally, I think it comes down to your current situation, location and goals at the moment. These things change all the time, except of course priority goals. These things affect who we associate with. I guess it's more about being deliberate and strict because everywhere you turn, you can be potentially influenced. And one last thing, snapshots of reality doesn't contain the whole context of relationships. All sorts of stuff happen in there. One moment, everything's okay. The next, a totally new issue comes up. Life is a movie. A continuous sequence of events. And after all the fun and games, we all go back to hustling. That's why you had a hard time seeing their fun sides. I believe the concept emphasizes that if you associate often with people more successful than you, then the dynamic will affect you in subtle ways that will eventually culminate in you performing on the same level as them. That doesn't explicitly mean that you have to ditch your real and true friends, right? I do believe that is implied. Well, just like you, I won't. It might just mean that I'll be busier and have less time for them. More or less, sent from my VTRL 29 using TaperTalk. I actually just had a conversation with a friend this morning over breakfast about this topic. I believe most people tend to stick to their routine and thus their 5-friend list happens by default. Like it or not, we all tend to blend with those we most closely associate with. We will likely either become complacent if our friends are at a lower socioeconomic status, or we will rise to their levels. We will also tend to share and develop similar habits and hobbies and likely mindset. Alternatively, we can take a proactive role in shaping our lives by actively seeking out people we admire and wish to emulate. This requires stepping out of your comfort zone. It can mean starting a new hobby or attending conferences. Maybe learning a new language or moving to a new city, state or country. Regardless, we tend to be the average of those we spend the most time with either by default or by actively seeking growth. Sent from my VTRL 29 using TaperTalk. This old post just popped up on my radar. More relevant to me now than ever. Most people don't want advice. They are looking for you to support them to get a little high, hence make them feel better for themselves. Usually the right advice will be against their way of thinking, so I just let them know what I would do in their situation. Are you talking about a situation where someone asks for advice? If so, I agree with you. Yes. My opinion is to be people who are relevant and useful to your goals. Basically, people who can stay together for a long period of time usually provide some form of tangible and intangible benefits to one another. I have to entertain jobless spoiled brats who drive a Porsche because his father is rich. If he calls me at 12 p.m. to tell me why his life sucks, I have to listen empathetically and agree for the next hour. I am in sales, so too bad. Again, for example, if you run a business, you look for a partner with complementary skill sets. You do not discount him or her simply because he is weak in an area you are strong in and you worried about getting dragged down. Again, there is area where the logic applies that you will be the average of people you hang out with. If you want to lose weight and learn a sport, you should meet up with people who have similar interests.